Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt your flow there.
Okay. But anyway, all that came before Al Gallico. Now, how I got the Al Gallico attention was the urban cowboy craze hit the United States of America, and I started working just constantly in all the honky-tonks all around the Los Angeles area.
Did you ever end up playing Gillies? I know that's in Texas, but...
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I met Al Gallico just through playing the Palomino and Cowboys and the Roundup and all these places, and he flipped over my songwriting and signed me, and he's the one that just picked up the phone from his office in Beverly Hills, California, and called Jerry Kennedy of Mercury Records, and he said, "Hey, Jerry, I got this girl. Yeah, she looks great. She sings great. She writes great songs. Yeah, you got to sign her, And so Jerry Kennedy signed me without even hearing me or seeing me, just from the word of Al Gallico, because Al was that strong. He was the #1 country music independent publisher. In other words, not one of the biggies or the main companies. But he published, Stand By Your Man, all the Billy Sherrill hits, all the Nora Wilson hits, Almost Persuaded. He signed Glenn Sutton, who was married to Lynn Anderson and who produced her.
Sure.
And anyway, Al Gallico was a great, great song man. He has since passed away, and I miss him terribly. But he got me my Mercury record deal, and that's how I came to Nashville for the first time to record for Mercury, was because of Al Gallico.
Well, you had your first charting records, I Can't Say Goodbye to You and Honky Tonk Saturday Night. And so how did it feel to have your first commercial success after playing music professionally for many years, up until that point?
It was just beautiful. It was just beautiful, and that was all due to Al Gallico. I just... there's never been any time to gloat about anything. It's always, if I ever did hear myself on the radio, it was always, I'd always say a prayer and consider it what a blessing. What a blessing to be able to do something I love, and then to do it well enough to where it can get out there and inspire other people. It's just, I can't think of anything I'd rather do really than write a song that inspires people.
Well, wasn't it around this time that you first met Roger Miller while you were in L.A.? Or had you met Roger before that? Because Roger was known as a great songwriter.
Yeah, I met Roger in L.A., yep, and when I was, singing country music, and he was in between wives, and somebody fixed us up a date, and we just had more fun than a barrel of monkeys together, because him being an Okie and me being an Okie, and he being so successful, and gave me some good advice, because at that time I was it aggravated me out in Los Angeles that every time I opened my mouth and people would hear my accent, they would immediately think I was stupid. And Roger said, man, that's how you get them, dumb like a fox, dumb like a fox. So, he's what a great talent, and I sure miss him too.
Yeah, I think it was... forgive me if it wasn't the Olympics, I should know, but I think around 88, the Olympics or one of the big games came to Oklahoma, and Roger Miller played it there. He had Marty Stewart leading his backup band, and he was just so full of life, and he looked so great. I mean, he was in his late 50s, and he had just had a young son, and then a couple years later, he was gone, just like that.
Yeah. When we were going out, it was fun because it was a time when CB radios were very popular, and Roger had a Rolls Royce, so we'd be driving around Beverly Hills in the middle of the night, and he'd turn on his CB, and his handle, of course, was King of the Road.
Yeah, King of the Road. Huh? I bet
nobody would ever answer him back. Beverly Hills at midnight. Nobody's on the CB radio.
I can imagine that he just had fun anyways doing that. He seemed like that was the kind of... It didn't matter if somebody answered him. It was just part of just doing it.
Right.
It was part of the fun.
It sure was, yeah.
And so you went on to have many more hits, such as Let's Get Over Them Together, which was recorded with Mo Bandy. We heard that just before you came on, by the way.
Awesome.
And just a really, really great recording, and it's hard to find some of those original recording songs on online. So it's on iTunes, so it's I I was glad I was able to play it. Thank you for forwarding that to me, because I think I have it on the 45 of it. It was released as a 45, but I don't have my record collection down here with me, so I wanted to be able to play that. So I appreciate it. But I was going to ask, how did you come to record with Mo? I mean, whose idea was it? Was it your producers or?
Well, it was great because how I met Mo was my grandma Hobbs served donuts and coffee at Goldie's Donuts in Coffeyville, Kansas for years. Goldie's Donuts was my aunt and uncle, my dad's sister. So Grandma Hobbs was in there every morning at 5 a.m. with a big smile, pouring hot coffee and hot, fresh donuts. And the guy that booked the Coffeyville Fair and Rodeo came in there every morning, and he would flirt with her because she was a very, very feisty, pretty lady. And she said, "Who you got playing at the fair this year?" And he said, "Well, we've got Mo Bandy, but we're looking for a girl singer to open the show." So Grandma Hobbs said, "My granddaughter sings." And he called me and booked me on the show, and this was, I'm guessing, I had just moved to Nashville, so this was probably 1981 or thereabouts. And so I opened the show for Mo Bandy. Of course, I got my friends from Tulsa to back me, and I didn't have even a van or a bus or anything then. And Mo caught my whole show from his bus. He was sitting there with the window open, and after my show, he called me on his bus, and he said, "My God, girl, if you had a hit record, you'd be dangerous." And then he said, "Do you want to record a duet with me?" And I went, "Wow, would I?" So we started talking about it, and Ray Baker was his producer, and he said, "Well, I'll call Ray, and I'll tell him to be watching out for some songs." So Ray Baker found Let's Get Over Them Together, that was written by Keith Stegall, who produces
Alan Jackson. Alan Jackson.
Huh?
Alan Jackson.
Right, Alan Jackson. Yeah, I was going to say Alan, what's his name? Alan Jackson. And Charlie Craig co-wrote that with Keith. And then we recorded a couple of other songs, and then, a year or two later, we recorded a song I wrote called Pardon Me, Haven't We Loved Somewhere Before? And we actually did a video on that together.
And can the folks buy them on CD anywhere? Have they been re-released, or has that not happened?
You know what? I'm not sure, but I do believe that both Let's Get Over Them Together and Pardon Me, Haven't We Loved Somewhere Before, I do believe they've been repackaged on some of Mo's recordings.
Okay, because they only had a re-recorded version of at least Let's Get Over Them Together on iTunes, with him singing it with some other singer that I had never heard of before.
Oh, well, I'm going to have to speak to Mr. Mosky about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good version, but it wasn't the same. But I mean, what can you do?
I got you. I bet you it was with a gal. He performed in Branson for years, and I know he had a gal in his band. It was probably with her, and I know she did a great job. But yeah, as I recall, I have gotten paid some sound exchange royalties as an artist with him on something that was repackaged. So
yeah, so maybe it was from like the record label itself that wasn't that.
Yeah, maybe.
But yep. You had more records. Are there any more like you? Do you feel the same way too? And what is probably, at least I would say, your most well-known song? I mean, you can correct me if you don't think this, but Jones on the Jukebox, which I opened up the show with.
Right. Jones on the Jukebox, as far as an artist goes, a recording artist, that's probably been my number one.
Your signature song.
Yep. As a singer, and then of course as a writer, it's Angels Among Us.
And you wrote Jones on the Jukebox with Mac Vickery and Don Goodman, I believe. And so the very first time Don Goodman and I got together to write, he said, and I don't even remember it, that I came bouncing in tight blue jeans, a red T-shirt, red cowboy boots, and he said, "What's happened, Beckaroo?" So he gave me the moniker Beckaroo the same day that he and I worked on Jones on the Jukebox. And what had happened, we were working on a couple of other songs, and then he said, "Hey," he said, "Beckaroo." He said, "Oh, Mac Vickery and I started working on this song last night at the Country Music Hall of Fame bar." And he sang, "I've got Jones on the jukebox and you on my mind.